अशोक जी, अच्छा आपने 3 के बाद आप गायब ही हो गए एकदम। 2 1 बोला ही नहीं आपने। ठीक है। Good afternoon, students. Welcome to the Success at CA exam organized by Board of Studies Academy. And I am your faculty, CA Dimple Goel. And this session is specifically for your Group 2 Paper 4 of your Group 2 final paper, Direct Tax Laws and International Taxation. Students, since it's the law-based paper, it is very important to see the sessions, the LVC or the BoS Success at CA exam or the any particular session organized by the Board of Studies is for which attempt, because it is very important, because for January 26, for May 26, different Finance Act applicability will be there, amendments by way of notification and circular, many things are there. So it is very important to see that for which attempt the classes or the success at CA exam is for. So this success at CA exam for final paper 4 is for January 2026 examination, because we are just about 15 to 20 days left for your examination. So this is regarding just a preparation tips or your important tips which will be very useful for you for your January 26 examination. So firstly, we start with the basic thing, the applicability of the Finance Act for January 26 examination. Students, we are in the mid of December, so till now I am expecting all of you whosoever is appearing for the January 26 examination, they have completed their study and done at least 2 times of revision for this paper, because that is very important to appear for the particular examination. So for January 26, you must be aware which Finance Act is applicable, but still if anyone has doubts, so I'm just clarifying it. So that first of all, the Income Tax Act 1961 is applicable. Many students has a doubt regarding the applicability of the Income Tax Act 2025. So for January 26, in fact for May 26 also, the new Income Tax Act 2025 is not applicable. So for January 26, your Income Tax Act 1961 as amended by the Finance Number 2 Act 2024 is relevant. So the Finance Act 25 amendment is also not applicable for January 26 examination. So what will be your relevant assessment year? Your relevant assessment year will be assessment year 2025-26. So the previous year is 2024-25. Now we talk about the cutoff date. So as you know, the 6 month prior cutoff date is there for any particular examination. So for your January examination, the significant notification and circular which is issued up to 30th June 2025 is relevant. Okay. Now the important thing, from where you can study, practice or revise for this paper. You must all have gone through the material, everything, but if any publication you have left for BOS, so you have the still time to just practice, because only after doing the practice you will be able to appear confidently in your examination. So it is very important that each and every question, each and every illustration, case scenario, everything provided by the BOS you must go through, and not only go through, you have to solve each and every questions, every case scenarios by your own, by writing, so that you will be more confident while you are writing in the examination. What happens, student? No, because many student, what they do, they just see the question paper, they just go through the question and the answer, so they don't have a practice of writing. So that's why when they appear for the examination, many times they are not able to complete their paper, or they're not able to write the provision because they have not practiced that. Okay, so it's a law based paper, so it is very important how you present your answer, how to write your answer to get the full marks. Okay, so don't do that mistake. Don't just oversee the questions, don't just see the adjustment and just see the answer. Try to solve it so that you know how to write what are you writing and what is written in their material or the other publication, so that you will be able to know how you have to write, how you have to give a reasoning for particular adjustment. So regarding the publication, many publications are there. First of all, the first most important is your study material. So now the question comes about the edition of the study material. So November 2024 edition of the study material is relevant for January 26 examination. Now stat update, we talked about notification and circular. So there are many notification and circular which were not there in the study material because they have issued by the CBDT after we have released the study material. So that notification and circular we have given by way of statutory update for January 26 examination. So you have to refer stat update for January 26 examination. Similarly, about the judicial update, there are case law which came after the releasing of publication. So the any important case law which is not there in the study material, we have reported by way of judicial update for January 2026 examination. Now RTP. Student, RTP for each particular examination attempt there is a RTP, but for January 26 you have the three set of RTP. Why I am saying three set of RTP? Because the same Finance Act was applicable for May 25, for September 25, and now for January 26. So you have to keep in mind the judicial update and the notification and circular which is issued after the releasing of particularly RTP, but you can refer May 25 RTP, your September 25 RTP, and your January 26 RTP. So means you have three sets of RTP for your practice. Now, model test paper booklet. There is a one booklet of model test paper in which model test is what? The paper which is in the same replica which your question paper comes. So you have an idea how your paper comes in the examination, and you can practice your whole soul paper in a given span of 3 hours, because it is very important to manage your time to write your answers. So this model test paper booklet you do after you have done all the things. So by this time you must have done everything. So now it's time to do the model test paper if you have not done. So what will happen? Don't see the model test paper, just sit properly, do your revision. After revision, just take one model test paper, just take a printout like your question paper, just sit and make a time watch of 3 hours and complete your papers in that given frame of time. So you will be able to see how much paper you have completed in that time, whether your speed is sufficient or you have to increase your speed, or what problem, that pressure which you feel at the time of writing, or all these things you will be able to analyze, judge at that point of time, so that same things you will not face in your examination, in your main examination. Now about the case scenario booklet. Your 30%, as you I am just assuming all you have known about this, but I'm just telling, 30% of your question paper, your 100 marks paper, 30% is for your case scenario MCQ based paper. So for the remaining 70 marks, there's a descriptive question. So for practicing that case scenario based MCQ, there's a one booklet of case scenario booklet. So in that, case scenarios are there, and your MCQs are there, which is derived from that case scenarios and the correct option, and we have given the reasoning also why that particularly option is the correct option. Now Saransh. Saransh is very useful, students, because for your last minute revision. In your examination you have only 1 day leave, so when you come from your exam, then next day you have that full day, and in the next day after that you have to appear for the next exam. So you have, can say, 1.5 hours for your preparation for the next subject. So in the 1.5 hours, it is not possible to go through again the whole study material or the RTP questions or the model test paper booklet or anything. It is not possible. So at that point of time, what is important? Your revision material which you have prepared. One is your saransh, in which summarize diagrammatic or tabular format is given for the relevant chapters of your study material, plus the notes. While you are studying, it is very important to prepare the notes by your own, and that notes you can devise at the time when you are you have 1 day leave before the examination. That time you have to just revise your saransh, the important notes which you have prepared, the important you have must have underlined the questions in which you have made the mistake or what mistake you have done in your MTP, RTP and everything. So that thing you have to revise before the day examination. Don't go to again just just flipping the study material, that because that doesn't work that point of time. So if you have any topic or any chapter you find difficult, that you can refer a day before the examination. Till now, any query, students, any doubt? Because now we are moving to the strategic part, how you can plan and on which topic or chapter you can give more focus to. So if you have any doubt till now, just please tell me, otherwise I'll move forward. Okay, now we come to the section wise weightage. So this direct text paper is divided, the syllabus of this paper is divided into 3 sections: section 1, section 2 and section 3. You have 4 modules for this paper, but we have divided the syllabus into 3 sections. So if I'll talk about your first 2 module, that comprises of your section 1, third module, section 2 and your module 4, which is international taxation, is your section 3. So if we look on the weightage which is assigned, you will be able to see now. First I'll just jump to the section 3, which is the which is international taxation. Why I'm telling about the section 3 first? Because in this section, if you see, only 8 chapters are there in international taxation, and the last 4 chapter, if you see, only knowledge and comprehension questions are asked from that 4 chapter. So if I'll just ignore for the time being that 4 chapters, so the remaining 4 chapters, your NR taxation, TP, advanced ruling and double taxation relief, the percentage assigns is 30% to 35%. It means your 34 to 40 marks paper comes from the last module, module 4. One question, okay, I am leaving for that one question for that 4 chapters of knowledge and comprehension. So the remaining, if I'll tell, it will be more than 25 to 30 marks your paper will be from the last section. Okay, so you can strategize your preparation accordingly. Now about the section 2, which is your module 3. In that there are chapters from deductions to the tax audit. So the weightage assigned to that section is 20% to 30%. It means your 24 to 34 marks come from this particular section. And in that section, what chapters are covered? Like TDS, TCS, your income tax authorities, assessment procedure, your procedure law is covered basically in that chapter. If you strategize in this chapter also, tax audit, one question no every time came from this tax audit chapter, and like TDS, TCS also, that is also very important. And in the practical training also, in that intermediate level also, you have done this TDS, TCS application, advanced everything. So in these 2 section chapter also you can more focus into. So in the section 1, section 1 is divided into 2 subsections. One is regarding your chapter 1 to chapter 9 and the second one is chapter 10 to chapter 12. So firstly I'll talk about the subsection 2. In that, what comprises? It comprises of your charitable trust and your special entities like REIT, InvIT and your securitization trust, then tax planning and digital transaction. So these 4 chapters, the weightage assigned to these only 4 chapters is 20 to 22%. It means 22 to 24 marks come from these 4 chapters. So you see how important these 4 chapters, and only these are 4 chapters. Now the subsection 1. Subsection 1 comprises of your chapter 1 to 9. Chapter 9, if you see in chapter 9, the assessment of various entities, that is the inclusive of all the other chapters of chapter 1 to 8. And they are basically more the advanced version of what you have studied at your intermediate level. Otherwise, your PGBP, house property, or other sources, clubbing, set off, everything you have studied in your intermediate level. This, I can tell you, that is the advanced version of your the chapters. So in the assessment of entities, what they can ask, companies can be asked in that, AMT provision, MAT provision, that can be asked in this chapter. So, and first compulsory question that comes from this chapter only. So 24 to 26 marks are from these 9 chapters, which basically you have to, because for the last chapter, chapter 9, you must have known all the provision from covered in the chapter 1 to chapter 8. So now we will just move to the question paper pattern. So now we have another faculty, CA Aparna Chauhan. So she will be guiding you regarding the question paper pattern and other things.
Thank you, Dimple, for continuing the session, because I have some other work, so I left, I could not join initially. Since she has already explained you the section-wise weightages for the subject, that the paper is divided into mainly in the 3 sections majorly. That first is the substantive provisions of the law, then your procedural law, and the last one is your international taxation. So she already informed that, of course, because in this way now, whatever the section wise weightages are given to you, it really will help you to make your study more strategically. Because once you know how much weightage a section is carrying, it means that you can devote much more time and you can focus on those concepts which will make you ensure that you are going to score that much marks from that section, right? So that international taxation is really very important, and it is carrying around 30 to 35%. 30 to 35% are there for international taxation. It's really very important post section, and you can score very well from this section. The questions mainly for chapters that are transfer pricing, your non-resident taxation, DTA. Every time DTA questions always comes, and so many questions are given to you in the form of in the model test paper booklet, in the RTP, in your model test papers, and everywhere in the study material. So you please solve each and every question to ensure the manner how to proceed such kind of questions and how to have a good hold over the DTA provisions. So this is very crucial. You can start and revising, because only now you have only 15 days left for 15 days around are there for your examination, and it's very high time, and I think you all must be preparing for the subject only. So this is the time for revision. किस तरीके से how you can revise the things, how you can just I know that you have already studied very well, but now the thing is to showcase now, because whatever you have done, you are prepared for this subject. Now you have to revise it properly and then showcase in your examination to score a good marks in the subject. And nowadays this DT is becoming more or very scoring because of this section wise weightages, because many times because it's restricted to particular section, and some of the question are there must be from that particular topics and particular section, right? So in that way you can make really can score a good marks from the subject. So that's what we are telling ki international taxation is a very scoring 4 chapters carrying a huge weightage, and questions can be asked in any form, whether in the form of case scenario based or in the form of your descriptive portion. It is dependent how you have prepared it. The preparation strategy would be same, however the presentation strategy would be different for both type of questions. Okay, the last four questions, what is there? every time knowledge based questions are being asked from the last 4 chapters, that are your latest development in Indian taxation, BEPS provisions, and then your model tax convention and interpretations of tax treaties. These are 4 chapters, and it is carrying always one or the other question will be there in a knowledge based question, right? So in that way you can do proceed. First, of course, is the section 1 is the huge section. It is carrying 40 to 45%. Huge marks are also allocated to, and it is divided into 2 further subsections, right? That she has already explained you how many chapters are there and how you can score good marks. Because if you see the charitable trust, and we are going to moving forward, we are going to discuss what type of questions are being asked from a particular section and how you can revise those. You can put an emphasis on those provisions, and little bit we are going to solve the RTP questions also, which are based on your latest amendments, because amendments in this paper are very crucial for you. You have to be very thorough with the amendments, and each time in the paper, if you look at the paper, then more or less 10 to 20% are based on the latest amendments, or more than that also is maybe happen. And from the judicial update, which is uploaded on our website, please download it. Stat update again is very crucial document. Please download it from the website. I think you all have already done the RTP also, but let's revise those provisions just by solving the questions, case scenarios which we have given in the RTP, that we are going to take up in the during this session. So manner of assessment, I think all of you are aware of what is the manner of assessment. There is 30% is the case scenario based and 70% is descriptive questions. Okay, in the case scenario based MCQs, all would be your application oriented MCQs, and no negative marking would be there with respect to this MCQs based, and no reasoning is to be given for the MCQ based questions. Whereas in case of descriptive questions, you have to give the reasoning. Of course, you have to substantiate the provision. You should know what is the requirement of the question and limit your answers according to the requirement of the question, right? Okay, for that purpose you have to be just thoroughly read the question and analyze what is the exact requirement, then proceed to solve it. Okay, then only you will fetch the good marks. For example, if I'm telling you you are making the computations of a total income of an entity, right? And there the question is you know how to proceed with computations problems, and you have computed the total income. Now you have applied the surcharge rate also, but and computed the surcharge. This is the figure of the surcharge. You have mentioned the surcharge figure, but maybe it's possible, it's a full-fledged question, your total income is not correct due to certain adjustments which you have gone wrong. In that way, how we can fetch the full marks from the surcharge portion is that you have to clearly mention the surcharge is applicable at the rate of this particular rate, and because the total income exceeds 1 crore, and in case if the assessee is paying tax, a company is paying tax as per the concession tax regime of section 115 BAA or BAB, then it's a flat rate of surcharge irrespective of the total incomes, and you have to mention that it's surcharge at the rate 10%. Then you are going to compute the surcharge amount. Am I right? So in that way only you will able to fetch the marks. You have to write in your question. Okay, because every word, whatever you are writing, every concept, every provision carry a mark. Unless you are mentioning and you are just straightforward arriving at the conclusion, this is the way you are arrived at the computations of total income, or you have arrived at the computation of TDS. For example, if I am talking about the TDS provision, some question, one or the other question in the descriptive portion is there for the TDS related provisions, right? And it is being asking you, the question is giving you certain facts, and based on that facts you have to analyze those facts, right, to determine whether the TDS is applicable or not. First of all, then you have to analyze the TDS is applicable at what rate. If there is any threshold limit, then there is no applicability of TDS if it is below that threshold limit. Okay, and if it's not exceeding the threshold limit, then there is no requirement of TDS. Then you cannot simply write ki no TDS is applicable, right, on this payment. You have to mention why TDS is applicable, why not applicable. Okay, and remembering the TDS provision, again I am telling you, is easy for you to, if you remember, by linking it with the section numbers. Okay, many times students keep on asking, ma'am, do we require to write the section numbers in our question paper, in our answer sheet? So answer strictly, if I speak you, then the certain provisions of the act are such na, remembering those provisions itself is very difficult if you are not learning it with the help of the section numbers. So for example, TDS provisions are like such, then your deductions from gross total income are such provisions. But of course, you need not to, remember and memorize the subsections and clause numbers and explanation numbers and all those things. It's very difficult. And in case if you are able to, retain those subsections and all those things, definitely you please write. Those who are able to retain it and you have a full confidence that whatever you are writing is you are writing correctly, then you can write it, because it will add value to your answers. And what I'm telling you, add value to your answer means that even if one student is writing the section number, another is not writing, so who is writing the correct section numbers gives a good impression in the mind of the examiners. Okay, and he will definitely, in case if he wants to give you 3 marks, he would like to give you 4 marks because you have mentioned the section. Some differentiation definitely would be there in your answer sheets. Definitely no proper specific steps marking are there for the writing the section numbers, but it add value to your answers. So certain sections you have to specifically mention ki yes, TDS is required, then you are remembering the section number, you can just substantiate your answer with that section number and proceed with the answer. You have to write in case some exemption or relaxation is given to a particular assessee, in that cases you need not to write, you have to write, yeah, this relaxation, since the in the facts this is an individual, in case of individual, since it's utilizing the services or whatever be the thing for its personal purposes, then 194C is not attractive. Okay, that way you have to mention, you have to clearly specify in your answers. So in descriptive portion, you should know how to present your answer, because presentation makes a lot of difference. Okay, for example, if there is a cash payments are made by a company for around 50,000 rupees, in case it's exceeds 10,000, disallowances would be attracted. You cannot directly add on in the profits which are shown as per the statement of profit and loss account. You have to add back, but by substantiating it with the reasoning why you are adding it back. Okay, you have to clearly mention, since the payment cash payments exceeds this amount 10,000 rupees, the amount would not be allowed as deduction. Okay, that you have to clearly write in your answer. Similarly, if in case of some disallowances are attracted on account of non-deduction of TDS or on non account of non-deduction of TDS, then you have to clearly mention that 30% disallowances are attracted on the payment made to particular person because TDS was not deducted. Here again TDS may only that not. If you see one of the important example if I want to give you regarding TDS is that for example, if TDS is deducted in the previous year, okay, and it is deposited within the filing due before on or before the due date of filing return of income, then you will be eligible for deduction. No disallowance would be attracted. But in some question, it's being written that no TDS was deducted. It was deducted in the next year, next previous year. For example, this is current for you is the 24-25 is the relevant previous year, and assessment is 25-26. It's written ki TDS was not deducting during the previous year, but assessee has deposited after deducting TDS on 15th of August 2025. What else will happen? No disallowance would be attracted, even though it is being deposited before the filing due date of return, before due date of filing return of income. Disallowance would be attracted because it was not deducted during the previous year. These are the critical aspects, of the provisions. You have to catch on all those provisions to solve the questions. These are critical things which you should revise before the going for the examination. And how you will have a good hold over such kind of things, more and more solve more and more questions. How many questions, the number of questions you are going to solve it, you are definitely going to have a good hold over the provisions. In that way you can attain clarity, you can attain your confidence. This will give you a confidence. Okay, so this is the way manner I have already explained ki what is the manner pattern of question paper is you must all be familiar with the pattern of question papers. I think you have all attempted the MTPs also. We have come out with 2 rounds of MTPs, MTP series 1 and 2, and you are expected to attempt those mock test papers in the examination conditions only. Why I'm telling you? Because I have come out with certain students who are saying they would not be able to manage the time during the examination. They are not aware of how to proceed with whether they have to take up the case scenario based MCQs first, or they have to go for the descriptive questions first. In that thing, I must say कि in case of your MCQ based, if you want to proceed with the MCQ based questions first, then you have to limit it to a particular time. Okay, because if I say it's 30% and you are going to get around 180 minutes, okay, apart from the reading time or for the descriptive questions, so that in 180 minutes 54 minutes are going to for your MCQ section. But if you are going to give 54 minutes, then you will be suffer in the descriptive portion, because descriptive portion requires more time. You have to analyze the question, you have to understand the requirement, then you have to present it also. Whereas in case of MCQs, you have to just analyze, compute, whatever the analysis you have to do, you have to do. But there you need not to present anything, you need not to give any writing notes to the MCQs. You can directly just have to choose a correct option. But of course you have to be very careful while choosing the correct option in the MCQ section. So that you have to do. Case scenario 30 marks आपका you have gone to 30 marks, and there to 54 minutes में what you can do, keep around 40 minutes to the MCQ section initially. Don't go beyond it, because otherwise. But what you can do, when you have solved your MCQ descriptive portion fully, then when you are filling your OMR sheet, just check once कि whatever you have filled in your OMR sheet is correctly filled in or not. Because unnecessary the things, but due to your some silly mistakes or something, you should not willingly, you should not do choose the wrong options in the OMR sheet. That you have to be very attentive by doing the OMR sheets, right? Then descriptive portions if you ask me, there are total 6 questions would be there in total in the descriptive portion. So in the descriptive portion, the first question is a compulsory question, and that is from your section 1 only. One first question would be compulsory question every time. Generally ये question is from your assessment of various entities, right? This is from assessment of various entities because it tests your evaluation and synthesis scale, and it's a compulsory question. Remaining questions also carrying 14 marks. So out of the remaining 5 questions, 14 marks each, student have to attempt only 4 questions. So यहाँ पे 4, how you are going to choose the 4 questions? This you have to do this analysis during your 15 minutes reading time. Okay, utilize your 15 minutes reading time to just give a glance, give a one reading to the whole paper and choose. And whatever you have chosen, strictly do those questions, because then you cannot go back and just go and do the another question. Don't do that way. You have to strictly make that choice during your 15 minutes reading time. Okay, so once you have done it, then whatever well, you have to proceed it with that question. It's not necessary that it's a compulsory question. That means you have to choose and attempt the compulsory question at first. It's nothing mentioned like that. You can choose to answer any of the remaining optional questions also first, because if I say whatever questions very well, you proceed and attempt that question first, because every question carrying the same marks. You are going on to fetch the high marks if you are going to attempt the first question. But whatever you do, for example, question number 4 carrying 3 parts, then whatever be the parts, you have to attempt all these 3 parts in continuation only. Okay, you should not do ki first you are doing question number 4a, then you are going to solve the question number 5b. Don't do that. You have to strictly solve all the parts of a question in continuation. If you don't know any one of the part, you can leave the space, and once you have done with the other questions, then you can come back and try to solve it. In case you are not knowing the answer still, then you can just strike through it. That way you have to. But please clearly mention the question number also in your answer sheets to make the task of the examiner easy. Unnecessary, he will be otherwise struggling to give you the marks. Okay, then one internal choice also will be given there in the question, in that other optional question, that you also have to choose and attempt accordingly while doing that question. Now this is the paper pattern. Section 1 may, if I say how to revise this section 1, and it's comprising of 1 to 9 chapters, first subsection, and mainly the computation of total income of the companies, cooperative society, or the partnership firms can be asked in this question, and more emphasis nowadays are given to the concession tax regimes. So please revise those concession tax regimes carefully. You should know what are the exemptions, deductions which are not available to an assessee when the assessee is paying tax as per the concession tax regime. Okay, revise those things, revise the rates applicable under the concession tax regime, and you have to look for the information whether the question is asking you to compute the tax liability in an optimized manner. If the question is like such, then you have to analyze both, as per you have to compute as per the normal provisions, and then you have to compare it with the concession tax regimes. Of course, in case of section 115 BAB, if you talk about, the companies have to incorporate on or before 31st March 2024, and that option to the company are available only when they are only once in the initial year. Okay, so company incorporation, if the company has incorporated in this year only, then that option will be available to the company. Otherwise 115 BAA will be available to the domestic manufacturing company who are already existing. Of course, there is a rate differences are there under both the sections of section 115 BAA and section 115 BAB. Those rates you have to be very carefully revised. Okay, before the day of your examination, you revise those rates thoroughly, and revise the deductions and exemptions which are not available under the concession tax regimes. These are very, very important. Revise the surcharge rates, whatever the surcharge rates applicable, where the company are paying taxes for the concession tax regime, or where the company are paying taxes for the normal provisions of the income tax law. So this is an evaluation synthesis question, and for that, now what I can advise you, now you have a very limited time and you cannot proceed to solve each and every question by taking your pen and paper. What you can do at this time, I'm not advising for the students who are going to appear in the May 26 examination. They have to definitely solve it by taking the paper and pen, but those who are going to appear in this January 26 examination, they have not have that much extended time. So what they can do, whatever be the adjustments are given in your study material, there are certain questions, many questions are given in a study material for the corporates. So whatever be the adjustment, just go through those adjustments first. In your mind, you thought for the treatment, what treatment of that adjustment has to be done. So accordingly, then you look for the answer. Okay, and try to remember the important terms, important key provisions which are required to substantiate for that particular treatment. So try to do as many as adjustments are given in your study material. You can take that, then you can go and take your mock test paper booklet. Okay, mock test paper booklet you take up, and there are many adjustments which are maybe repetitive also, but you will find some new adjustments also that you can take up. Okay, so you just go through those adjustments whatever given, and then try to analyze on your own, and then compare with the answers given there in that way, and mark those things now which you are going wrong and you have a different opinion of answering that adjustment. Then you please mark it and highlight it. So what you can do, before the day of your exam, you just go back and just look for those highlighted portions. Okay, so in case similar things being asked in an examination, then you can easily approach those provisions, okay, those questions easily. So that's what you can do in your assessment of various entities provision, that is your section 1. And then your what else can be asked from apart from this whole full-fledged questions, the question can be asked on your math provisions, which are not very difficult one, and more or less many questions are given in your study mat also, in your MTP booklet also, the mock test papers. So whatever been given, you just go through and look for those adjustments again. This is would be on the same lines. Then your capital gains. See, January 26, the Finance Number 2 Act 24 is applicable for you, not the Finance Act 25. Okay? And the Finance Act, you know that Finance Number 2 Act 2024 made amendments from a particular specified date. Remembering those dates is equally relevant for you, because you have to look for the information, you have to look for the transactions taking place. Accordingly, your answer would vary. So mainly, if you ask me, then your long-term capital gain, your capital gains provisions have undergone, drastic change in that provisions. So for that capital gains provisions, you please go through properly. Remember the date of 23rd July 2024, and then your whatever be the your rates are going to change, and for the long term capital gains which are chargeable to tax under section 112A, if you are telling talking this thing 112A, then 1,25,000 is the exemption limit, which is applicable irrespective of the transaction taking place, whether on or before this 23rd July or after this date. Then you have to remember that those dates very carefully, and the rates, of course. Okay, the rate was earlier 10%, now it's 12.5%. In case of STCG, the rate was 15%. In case listed shares, STCG 111A, then it's 20% now after that date. So you have to remember, then period of holding again is going to change. You have to remember which assets period of holding is going to change due to the amendment. So these are the critical points you have to go through once again and again, so that you should be very careful while reading the question, while looking for the information. Accordingly, you proceed to answer the questions. Okay, then buyback of shares, again very frequently asked question. From that, then remuneration, partners remuneration, again being changed. So that is again the important aspect from this section that you can go through. Then your ICDS also, please go through the ICDS portion. अभी आप देखोगे बहुत टाइम से no questions being asked on ICDS, but ICDS is again very important. Maybe some question may be asked on ICDS. Okay, so ICDS, if we talk about, then foreign exchange is again a very important ICDS. Construction contract, revenue recognition, inventory valuation. These are the very critical ICDS. Those please go and whatever is written in your study material, that you go through it properly. And in case if you are look for such kind of questions which are based on ICDS to revise those provisions. Then what else you can remember in this concession tax regime, that I have already informed you, that you have to go through the concession tax regime carefully. Apart then clubbing provision, income from other sources, mean that income from other buyback of provisions is there. In that, of course, you have, because there is chances of doing a mistake how to compute that income which is going to chargeable to tax in the hands of your assessee by way of dividends under the head income from other sources. And then what will happen to the cost of acquisition, what will happen to the loss which occurred due to on account of this provision. That loss can be set off against, if you are having capital gains in the same year from other assets, that you can set it off against those assets. Otherwise you can carry it forward to the subsequent years. Okay, this is important things. Then your subsection 2, if we go to subsection 2 of section 1, then in this subsection, it's more every time the certain independent case scenario based questions are asked from charitable trust, REITs, in which again is very very important for you. Please go through those things. REITs may the pass through status is there in respect of interest, dividend, and your rental income. The pass through status means these are not taxable in the hands of REITs, whereas they are being taxable in the hands of unit holders. Okay, and in case of unit holders, if there is a confusion among these students ki what will happen, why the dividend if you talk about, then dividend is exempted in the hands of both REITs and the unit holders still, even though the now dividend is taxable in the hands of shareholders, but there is a condition when the dividend would be exempted in the hands of unit holders if the SPP is not opting for 115 BAA, then only it would be exempted, otherwise it would be taxable in the hands of your unit holders. And what are the rates applicable for resident unit holders and the non-resident unit holders, and the TDS rates specifically, because once the REIT is distributing such pass-through income to the unit holders, then REIT is obligated to deduct the TDS on those incomes. Those aspects, then again one of the important amendment, it's not that in case apart from these three incomes, if REIT is distributing income to the unit holders, then again it would be chargeable to tax in the hands of unit holders. And how, what is the computation manner of computing such income? So this is important one. And more or less of course in REITs question, if you say some descriptive question can also be asked, there you have to specify clearly, and otherwise case scenario based question would be there. So case scenario booklet is again with you, so I think you hope that you have already solved that case scenario booklet and marked the key questions which you feel yes, these are the very important questions. You can yourself mark, because there you are, if you are doing certain mistakes, you are not able to arrive at the correct answers, then you can look for those questions again before the examination, that you can do. And mock test papers may, again model test paper booklet may, you can mark the questions, categorize the question chapter wise. That will help you to revise a particular section in a particular time. If you have done that exercise, definitely it will be going to help you when you are revising a particular chapter. And when you are going to revise the whole syllabus, for that purpose you have to solve the whole MTPs which are given in your MTP booklet or in your MTP series. Okay, then 115 TD was not tested for a long time, that can be tested, so do remember that 115 TD provisions, there is a fixed MMR rate, that is in case of this MMR the surcharge rate applicable is your 12%, okay, and 30% plus 12% plus 4% is the HEC. So these are the crucial things, how to value that accreted income, how to compute that accreted income. That is a manner is given, that you have to just revise it, how to compute those accreted incomes. Then what type else question, corpus donations questions can be asked, taxability of anonymous donations can be asked, 11.5 modes of investments pay, some questions can be asked, the proceedings which you have been utilized out of the loan, then loans amount, the amount which are being utilized out of the loans is not allowable as an application. However, once you repay that loan, that would be allowed as application once you at the time of repayment. So these are the critical points which you can remember. The registration procedure, of course, there is a particular validity is given in the registration, that if a trust is registered under section 12 maybe, then it would be valid for, the registration is valid for 5 years. So these are the key significant provisions which I am just telling you. Those you please try to again revise before the day of your examinations from subsection 2 of section 1. And again this I have already explained you. And then your second section is your procedural law. Procedural law, it's really very interesting things is then deduction and collection from and recovery of taxes. Huge weightage is given to this particular chapter, deductions, collection, recovery of taxes, and it's not very difficult also, but of course you have to memorize certain provisions, because threshold limits you have to memorize, the rates you have to memorize. Then again this year they have made and reduced the TDS rates generally, this by way of these amendments made by the finance, they have reduced the TDS rates, and from particular date, that's 1st October generally. So you have to remember that rates, okay. Then your remittances out of India, TCS provisions, it's an important one that you have to live LRS mein. So and then overseas tour package programs is there, do not 6C1G. Then 2061F TCS provisions you have to remember. Then whatever be the case laws which are given in your study material, you go through those case laws apart from the case laws which are given in your judicial update. Okay, and then of course you can make use of the saransh. If you, I will say, if you are going to use the help of the saransh for revising the rates and threshold limits, it will definitely help you out in the TDS provisions, because whole table is given, and before the day of the exam you just refer that table. It will definitely will be helping you a lot in the TDS provisions. Okay, then and there you can write something which you feel that the treatment of applicability of TDS seems to be different, however the High Court or the Supreme Court has decided in some other way. These are really very critical things, so that you have to specify it while if you are taking the help of SAR. There also you can just write there then and there. This is the important aspect from this section that you should know about it. Okay, so deduction collection is one of the important chapter from this section. Then your assessment procedure again is very important chapter, and इसमें basically the updated returns. Go through the updated returns carefully. Go through the return filing requirements. The due dates are, of course, you must be knowing आप intermediate से आप पढ़ते आ रहे हो. And then your income escaping assessment is one of the important aspect. And then another one is the block assessment, which they have introduced by this Finance Number 2 Act 2024. Block assessment, okay, in respect of search and seizure cases, and that too from a particular date they have introduced it. It's very important. And in this respect, one case scenario is given in your RTP that we are going to take up today itself. And I hope that you please, whoever is watching this program, this webinar from YouTube or from the RBS knowledge portal, you can please come and join through Zoom link, so that we can have one-to-one interaction, so that I should also know ki how you are prepared for your examination. That so I may you may please join us through the Zoom link, and we can definitely have an one-to-one interaction regarding those when we are going to take that block assessment concept by way of that case scenario booklet. And one international taxation question is there again in the case scenario 2. Then the statutory update also we have covered in that RTP. So we try to cover in the RTP mainly the amendment based provisions which are given by way of stat update, by way of judicial update. Those are being covered in the RTP. So please go through the RTP, and एक बार कर ली है अगर आपने RTP, then again you go through. It will help you to revise the provisions which are being dealt in that RTP. So it will definitely help you in that way. So block assessment we will be covering during this session itself. Then your income tax authorities may, if you talk about, then definitely the search and this search provisions are being tested. Then your search and survey provisions are tested, and one of the question is given in your MTB also, and MTB booklet also regarding call of information, when he can enter into the premises, what he can retain it with the income tax authority retain and taken in his custody, and how much time it can do, and what papers and documentation it can take it. So these kinds of things are generally being asked from income tax authorities. Okay, 132A and your section 132, 133A, these are the common provisions which are being asked. Then your miscellaneous provisions. Yes, miscellaneous provisions is one of the important chapter, I must say. And more or less other ways, 269 SS, 269 ST, 269 T, 269 SU, these questions frequently ask provisions. Okay, so you please go through these provisions. Very important provisions. Make a chart, make a comparative table of these provisions, so that any form they being asked, it's not restricted to this chapter only. If you go to the tax audit chapter, there are certain clauses, reporting requirements are also there in the form 3CD. Okay, so you can be asked from the form 3CD angles. The miscellaneous provisions, if I talk about, the disallowances, if I talk about, there are reporting requirements which are there in the tax audit report. So once you have done and thorough with the other provision, then you would be able to solve the questions which are on the tax audit chapter. So abhi, if you see, the trend is ki whatever is given in your study material, the questions are based on those things. But in case if they are asking you something different, that whether that particular transaction is required to be reported in the form 3CD or not. Once you have done with the other chapters and you have gone through the chapter, then definitely you would be able to help it. It's not because it's a direct tax paper, it's not necessary that everything should be from your existing content. It can be framed newly, but once you are knowing your provisions very well, then definitely you would be able to solve the questions. Then your black money law, of course, black money law is given in your penalties chapter itself, okay, and that you can go through. And tax audit again is a very important. So here, if we talk about tax audit, your deduction collection is again very assessment procedure, miscellaneous provisions, particular sections which I have told you, those you please revise it thoroughly, so that whatever be the form the questions is being asked, you are able to score a good marks. And nowadays, really, direct tax laws is becoming so scoring paper, and you, of course, you have to prepare for it, because the syllabus is vast, syllabus is too much, but it's now being divided into sections. What questions can be asked, what type of questions are being asked, so much resources are available to you. Once you have done with all the resources, then in any way new questions being asked, then also you can proceed to solve it. Okay, then your section 3, that we have already discussed in at length, key what type of how you can score good marks in section 3, and it comprising of huge sections, a huge weightage is being assigned. Transfer pricing, if you see, arm length question would be there, but associated enterprises, again AE, remember the threshold limits, remember the conditions when two enterprises are called as AE. These conditions are very necessary, and once you know those conditions, you should know how to going to write in your answers. Okay, so again, revise those conditions for AE, revise those arm length questions, whatever the questions given in your transfer pricing chapter. Then secondary adjustments, again and again, many times secondary adjustment questions is being asked that excess money has to be repatriated within 90 days. If not repatriated, what are the other ways, remedies available to the assessee, that he can pay the tax, additional tax, and in up to what interest rate would be applicable. So that rates, again, you have to remember, you have to mention. Then 94B is again very interesting and very easy to learn, and many times one or the other question are being asked on the 94B. Advanced ruling, again, it's a very limited portion, but very easy to learn, and please go through and learn the advanced ruling provisions, but because it's now become board for advanced ruling, and it's being appellable mechanism is also given, but you cannot, of course, appeal before the ITAT. You have to go to appeal before the High Court only. The ruling which are being decided by the board are appealable before the High Court. Okay, and what is the time limit for withdrawing the advanced ruling, and what is the time limit of filing an application before the High Court, this thing, and when can an assessee approach the advanced ruling, in what circumstances the advanced ruling is not allowable, would be rejected, the circumstances. Learn those things. This is about advanced ruling. The last is the general knowledge based question being asked from this section. Okay, then this is important. DTA, if you all must be knowing that the DTA rates are inclusive of surcharge and cess, right? And where the TDS is required to be deducted as per the DTA, you need not to add on the surcharge and education cess. However, in case if the provisions of your income tax act are applicable, and in case of non-resident assessees, the TDS is to be deducted by applying the surcharge as well as on the your HEC at the rate 4%. Then taxability, of course, if the question is being asked, it may be happen that question will be asked on a non-residents, and TDS is required to be deducted or not, that we will come to know once it is being taxable. So there can be some interlinking between the taxability and the TDS provisions can be asked. In that way, you have to go again to the section 9 and determine whether that sum is chargeable to tax in India. If once it's chargeable to tax in India, then you want to go and look for the rates they are applicable for the deducting TDS. Okay, and this is about your thing, and this is in primary adjustment. We have discussed that secondary adjustment is to be made once is primary adjustment exceeds it 1 crore limit, But of course, if the assessee has suo motu made the primary adjustment, which is in respect of interest disallowed, of course, the primary adjustment need to be with respect to interest only. And 94B is also there, which is restricting your deductions with respect to expenditure incurred on interest to our non-resident AEs. Then not more than 30% of EBITDA you have to restrict to the interest expenditure. So once the primary adjustment is being made suo motu, then your amount of your 94B is going to change. Okay, so this is the important aspect which is given by way of some MCQ also. You will come to know if you go and check the MCQ section, then you will get that question from there. Apart from that, now we are going to move to our RTP question. Let me tell you the this RTP. If you look at the RTP's first case scenario, which is based on your block assessment, your TDS provision under section 194 IA, then your buyback of shares. So case scenarios are generally based on integration of integrated provisions. Okay, so block assessment, in case how you are going to proceed to solve the case scenario based question. For that, now what you have to do, first you just go and read the case scenario, facts of the case scenario quickly. It's not up to the questions. We also advise you just go through the questions first and then come to the case scenario. That also exercise you can do. But I feel that once you have just go through the question, don't try to analyze the facts itself immediately once you are reading it. Okay, just read it. When you are reading again, going to the question, then you have to again come to the facts, because what happens now, it's not necessary that all the facts of a particular question are given in continuation. It's not necessary. They can be given, some facts are given to other question, and some facts are given for other question, and thereafter the facts related to first question are being given. So you should not miss on certain information. That's why I keep on advising ki first you just go through the case scenario first, read the facts, read the questions, and once again read the question, then again go to the facts. So somehow it would be in your mind that some facts are there related to this question in the case scenario. So let's read this case scenario. In this, Mr. Rohan Mehta is a property dealer and also engaged in the business of constructing apartments. A search under section 132. Search under section 132 was conducted in the business premises on 10th of December 2024. The last of authorization was executed on 18th of December 2024. The following facts are discovered during search: that some cryptocurrencies of 50 lakhs acquired in the financial year 21-22 it was acquired. However, the search was conducted in the financial year 24-25. Jewelry of 30 lakhs acquired in financial year 23-24, and he could explain only 20 lakhs with respect to cryptocurrency, and jewelry of rupee 10 lakh purchased with via NEFT. Then books of accounts further revealed that unexplained expenditure of 15 lakhs was incurred during the financial year 22-23 towards foreign travel of family members, and he could not explain the source of that expenditure. And loose papers also indicated receipt of 40 lakhs in cash for sale of flats. This amount also not recorded in the books of accounts. Later in the it has come to the notice of assessing officer that the assessment for AY 23-24 was pending under section 143(3) on the date of initiation of the search, and assessing officer issued a notice under section 158 BC for furnishing a return within 60 days. However, Mr. Rohan Mehta furnished the return after the expiry of 60 days only. Then assessing officer, after considering evidence, determined total income of 1.05 crore and proceed to levy tax at the rate of applicable and along with the surcharge and cess. He also levied interest at the rate 2% on tax on undisclosed income for every month or part of the month for a period after expiry of 60 days and ending on the date of completion of assessment under section 115 BC. On 12th of March, Mr. Jeevan and Mr. Shivam purchased an apartment from Mr. Rohan Mehta for rupees 70 lakhs. 35 lakhs each. The stamp duty value of apartment is 48 lakhs. The consideration amount includes 2 lakh towards parking and 50,000 towards maintenance. Then he bought back ABC Limited, ABC Private Limited on 23rd. These dates are very important. You have to look for these dates. 23rd, 20th March 2025. ABC Private Limited bought back 50,000 shares, including 500 shares from Mr. Jeevan for rupee 1250 per share. Mr. Jeevan acquired these shares for 200 per share in the year 2018. Now we are going to the questions. If you look at the question, first question is on TDS, and if the facts, if you see, the facts relating to TDS are given in this portion only, and with Jeevan and Shivam, because Jeevan and Shivam, the discussion starts for Jeevan and Shivam only from this para. Okay, and this is with respect to the requirement to deduct TDS on purchase of apartment by Mr. Jeevan and Mr. Shivam. Here they are acquiring, they are the buyers and acquiring the apartment from Mr. Rohan Mehta. And what are the TDS obligations on Mr. Jeevan and Mr. Shivan? There was an amendment. ये इस पे डाल सकते हैं ना? Yes. Yeah. In this respect, if you see, payment on transfer of certain immovable property other than agricultural land are covered in the section 194 IA. It says that transferee, here the transferee are in this particular case are the Jeevan, and who else is the transferee? Jeevan and Shivam are the transferees. Okay, and if they are making payment, paying any consideration for transfer of immovable property land other than agricultural land. So keep in mind agricultural land, which is to in rural agricultural land. Okay, it should not be an urban agricultural land, because urban agricultural land pe the provisions of 194 IA would be attracted. So in that case, to a resident transferor. Keep in mind here it is a resident transfer. Suppose if he is acquiring the land from non-resident transferor, then he must be paying the tax. तो यहाँ पे the provisions of 195 would be attracted in this case, not 194 IA. Okay, and उस केस में किस अमाउंट पे कटेगा और यहाँ पे किस अमाउंट पे कटेगा, there is a difference. There is a difference between these two terms. Here in this question, it's from Rohan Mehta, who is going to is a resident only, and then the transferee Mr. Jeevan and Shivam will be going to deduct TDS at the rate 1% on the sum, whatever be the consideration amount, or the stamp duty value, whichever is higher. जो ज़्यादा होगी उस पे TDS कटेगा. Okay, and there is an amendment. What is the amendment? The amendment was this: कि in case where there are more than one transferor or transferee in respect of an immovable property, more than one here, the more than one transferor or transferee, then consideration for the purpose of TDS shall be aggregate of the amounts paid or payable by all the transferees to the transferor or all the transferor for transfer of immovable property. Here the transferees, the buyers are two. Okay, and then what will happen? Two buyers, then they both will be deducting TDS on the consideration amount. What will happen? What is the amount? Because each, if you see, the amount to each is 35 lakhs. Okay, each, and your stamp duty value is also 48 lakhs rupees. The threshold limit is given for 50 lakh. Here again you have to remember 50 lakhs or more, because question generally is 50 lakhs exact figure will be given, then whether it would be applicable or not. So this you have to memorize. Of course, this you have to memorize, whether the consideration amount is exceeding or not exceeding or equivalent to that particular limit. So here it is 50 lakhs or more. Okay, and in the particular case, in our case, the stamp duty value is not exceeding your is less than 50 lakh rupees. This is 48 lakhs. However, the consideration jointly for both the persons, Mr. Jeevan and Mr. Shivam, exceeds rupee 50 lakhs, because here it's 70 lakhs. Then they will be deducting TDS at the rate 1%. Okay, and what amount it is inclusive of? Apart from this consideration, also includes 2 lakhs for car parking and 50,000 towards maintenance fees. if you look at the provision, in the provision it's mentioned that amount consideration would include whatever be the charges you are paying. Everything would be considered for the purpose of deducting TDS. So here on the whole amount of 70 lakh rupees, TDS is deductible at the rate 1%. Okay, including your car parking and maintenance fees by Mr. Jeevan and Mr. Shiva. Okay, so the correct answer would be in this case, correct answer in this case would be your, they will be deducting TDS on whole consideration of 70 lakhs payable by both of them, and including car parking. This is the easy one, but of course here the date you have to remember, because this amendment also takes place from 1/10/2024. Okay, so you have to remember this date. And of course, while suppose for example this question is on this thing descriptive form mein, that what you have to write, you have to definitely mention about all the facts that the since in this case the stamp duty value, the consideration amount is not less than 50 lakh rupees, and it would the TDS would be deductible under section 194I by Mr. Shiva ma'am, Mr. Raj at the rate 1%. That you have to write in your answer sheets. Then next is on your black money, your block assessment. So block assessment ka, let's understand block assessment concept. Just a minute, give me a minute. So let's discuss block assessment. This block assessment concept was introduced with effect from 1/9/2024, and it is 1/9/2024. So what is happening earlier by the Finance Act 2021 had made the amendment by abolishing a separate search assessments by including these things into the this income escaping assessment. But due to certain litigations were arising, challenges like staggered assessments and inconsistent outcomes were identified. Due to that reasons, again the concept of block assessment was introduced by the Finance Act 2024 by way of inserting Chapter 14B. Okay, that too from 1/9/2024 in between date. So whatever, if the assessment was conducted or initiated before this date, then the assessments will be made as per the other provisions. Other provisions are the income escaping provisions from 147 to 149. From that way. Okay, and here if the search was initiated and concluded after 1/9/2024, okay, I'm emphasizing on the words initiated as well as concluded after 1/9/2024, then your assessments will be made, the block assessment will be made under this chapter 14B from section 115B to 158B to 158BI. Okay, and in that case, what is block period actually? Because why they have called this term block assessment? If you see earlier, in earlier years, the block assessment concept was there, but it was being removed from the act, and again it was reintroduced in the act because search cases are totally different and the income escaping assessment are totally different, because in case search has been conducted or requisition is being made and they will find out the undisclosed sources, unexplained expenditure, not only for the current year, they can find out from the previous years also. So for the block years, the earlier years also, so for to curb those simultaneously, it's not ki you have to do the assessment not for each and every year. They have come out with the concept of block assessment, means of a block period. Matlab, it's not if search is being conducted, then you can take the 6 years for the purpose of block assessments. You need not to do the assessment for each and every year separately. You will do the assessment for the block period. And what is this block period? This is being defined in section 115.8b, which is saying period comprising previous years relevant to 6 assessment year preceding the previous year in which search was initiated. Search was initiated. In our question, if you see when the search was initiated, if you see here, just look at and go back to our this thing. Search was conducted on this date, 10th of December, okay, and executed, last authorization was executed on 18th of December 2024. In this case, if you see, then what is happening here? The search is conducted in the previous year 24-25, okay, and you can go back. You can go back to 6 years preceding the current previous year. So if you see, current previous year is your 24, 25. You can go back to 6 years back. Okay, so it's 23, 22, 21, 20, 19 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so आप यहाँ previous years तक जा सकते हो. 21. These are the 6 previous years, preceding previous years. If we are talking about the assessment, तो आपका extra आगे जाएगा. So here for 6 years would be your block year. Search is conducted here, and it is going to be a block period. Further, it's being mentioned that it will also include the period starting from 1st April of the previous year. That is means यहाँ से 24 का year, 1st April 2024 till the last of authorization. Till last of authorization of such search was or requisition was executed. Okay, date ending on the date such was initiated or requisition was made, and ending on the date of execution of the last of the authorization for such search or requisition. Okay, last of authorization is the conclusion of this search and recorded in the last Panchanama. That is your this is already been given. This kind of information will be given to you when your last authorization is there. Likewise, it's been given in your this RTP also. So last authorization on 18th of December. Okay, so what would be if you go and see block period? You know the concept of block period. It is 6 previous year preceding to the previous year in which search was conducted, and also include the period from 1st April of the previous year in which search was conducted till the date of last authorization of search. So in this year, we have already computed what would be our this thing. The years, previous years are this one till previous year 18-19 plus your 1st April 24 till 18th of December 24, the date of execution. Okay, this would be your block period. Right here, if you see, don't get confused with this. Here the question in every option, the assessment years are being mentioned. If you see in every question, the assessment years are being given to you. So what will happen? Assessment year, if it's 18-19 previous year, then assessment will be 19-20, and the last is 23-24 is the previous, and the assessment year would be 24-25. And the year, the period is starting from 1st of April till 18th of December 2024. So accordingly, C would be the correct answer. Right? So block period, you are knowing the 6 previous years preceding the previous year in which search was conducted, including the year period started beginning from 1st April 2024 till the last authorization. Okay. Then next is important thing. Example is also given. Then your assessments. What will happen to the assessments? This is given. Assessment of total income as a result of search. Of course, assessment has to be made. The assessing officer will proceed to assess and reassess the total income of the block period in accordance with the provisions of 14B. Here the important note is written in case where the search was initiated before but concluding on after, assessment shall be done as per the other provision. This is important thing. It might happen. They will ask you some question based on this important note. What they are saying, initiated before but concluding after. Then the assessments in respect of those search will be conducted as per section 147. Income escaping assessment के according only you have to go and do the assessment. You have to go to do the issue a notice under section 147. Okay, and you have to proceed and solve as per the 147. Then here is since it was concluded in this year and initiated also in this year, it would be come under this fact. Now, the assessment or reassessment, in case if certain assessments or reassessments are also pending in respect of particular years falling in that block period, because you are going to do the assessment for a block period of 6 years preceding the previous year in research is conducted, then it might happen that some assessments are already going on with respect to particular e-assessment year which is falling in that block period. So what will happen to those assessments? They will continue to be there or they will abate. Here they have decided they will abate and their assessments will be made as per the this provisions of chapter 14b only. Okay, in that case further it's being written ki to whatever be the year, because आपने देखा होगा the 24-25 is not yet ended and the SSC also has not furnished the return of income. Of course it is being comprising of block period, but the assessment of that block period of which is from 1st April 24 to last of authorization, then in that case also it would be only undisclosed income block period 6 years shall be subject to the provision of this chapter. So uske liye separately in accordance with the other provisions of this act, according to the other provisions of the act it will be made, not as per the block assessment का कैसे assess होगी उस income को consider नहीं करेंगे while computing the total income for that block period. What rate again? What rate if the total income is of the block period shall be taxable at the rate specified in section 113. Okay, because earlier 113 was there which with respect to the block assessments, then they have done away with that block this thing. Let me tell you exact timings and those things. Just a minute. Earlier 1995 omitted 1995 mein it was inserted and then they have done away with that provisions and there they have specified a rate of 60%. Okay, they have specified a rate of 60%. So it would be whatever be the income which is assessed as per the provisions of block assessment, it would be chargeable to tax at the rate 60% increased by surcharge and health and education. This rate you have to of course remember it. The 60% is the rate which would be increased by surcharge and health and education says. Okay, maybe some question may be asked to you and in the form of descriptive, those things you have to specify it. Okay, then computations mechanism is given here. Computation mechanism is given how to compute this undisclosed income and what to be considered. Everything is given which you have to just go through and read it, but procedure here it's very important that the assessing officer what to do, because in case of income escaping assessment, assessing officer issue a notice. Okay, show cause notice is also being issued here. The assessing officer is going to issue a notice requiring him to furnish a return. Okay, they have to assessee have to furnish a return of income for those block period whole years every year, even though he has already furnished the return of income, but again based on a notice which is being issued under this chapter, the assessee is required to furnish a return for that period and the time period would not exceed 60 days. It is on the liberty is given to the assessing officer whatever be the time he can specify in the notice and but of course that time period should not exceed 60 days. And if it is furnished within this time limit, then it would be considered as 139. It would be considered that the return is furnished as per section 139 and notice under section 143 shall there notice under section 143 do. If it is not furnished within a time, what will happen? 139, if not considered as 139, then of course your other provisions would be attracted, your penalty provisions, interest provisions, everything would be attracted if it is not furnished within the time. And he further, even though he is furnished within time, there is no the person who has furnished the return under this clause shall not be entitled to furnish the return, revised return. He cannot furnish a revised return. It's an important point. Revised return नहीं fill कर सकते if the assessee is furnished return for that block period as per the notice issued by the assessing officer. This is important point. Then what else will happen? The assessing officer shall proceed to determine the total income, including undisclosed, in the manner laid down. With that already being given, he will do it. Then time limit for completion of assessment is again very important. You please remember this time limit. This is 12 months from the end of the month in which last of the authorization for search was conducted. This question can be asked by a case scenario. In the RTP we have covered the what will happen to the assessment which was pending for that block during for a year which is falling during that block period. Is being question being asked. And then with respect to interest also the question being asked. With respect to penalty, one question is similar in the in one question it's been given. So this is again an important thing which you should remember, what would be the time limit up to which the assessment has to be completed. So this is 12 months. That is also from the end of the month in which last of the authorization for search was executed. In our case it's 18th of December. So from the end of the month, okay, 18 December 2024, so it's 31st December 2024, so 12 months from the end of the month, that is 31st December 2025 तक करना है assessment. In this case, no interest would be levied. In case some tax liability would be there, 60% you have to pay the tax, okay, including your surcharge and education cess. Apart from that, no interest will be leviable. And further, no penalty would be leviable under section 1270A. However, penalty and interest would be levied if the assessee has failed to furnish the return of income within the time specified in the notice. This is being tested, and you have to remember, within the time, if the assessee is not furnishing the return of income, then penalty would be leviable. Okay, and that too, 50, it may be 50%. It's been given 50% of the tax or the penalty would be leviable. Further, your interest at the rate 1.5% of the tax, 1.5% of the tax, okay, don't confuse with the undisclosed income amount. It would be 1.5% of the tax, that is 60%. You have already known 113 is providing for this 1.5 this tax computation on the undisclosed income. So 1.5% of the tax on undisclosed income, and interest will be charged starting from the day immediately following the expiry of time specified in the notice, okay, and ending on the date of completion of assessment. जब आपका complete होगा assessment, 12 months का time period is there for completing the assessment. So whatever be the time the assessment is being completed, the interest would be charged from that date to this date. Interest would be charged specified notice, okay, last of authorizations any day time is specified in the notice, from that date interest will be charged. Penalty would also be leviable in those cases where the assessee is not furnishing the return on time, made direct to levy the penalty at the rate 50% of the tax. And so in if you see and look at the questions now, it would be easy for you. With respect to the block assessment, Mr. Rohan Mehta received a different opinion. What is happening? Because some information is given to an assessment of 23-24 that one assessment is pending under section 143(3) on the date of initiation of the search. Okay, and 23-24, the assessing official issued a notice to furnish the return within 60 days. However, he has not furnished the return within the period of 60 days. And after considering the evidences, the assessing officer determined 1.05 crore as the undisclosed income, and he also levied the interest at the rate 2%. So what will happen? What are the question? Some opinions are being given, which is being taken by Mr. Rohan Mehta, that the pending assessments For AY 23-24 under section 143(3) on the date of initial shall abate. Okay, which were pending shall abate, or pending assessments under section 143(3) on the date of initiation of search shall continue to be completed under the said sections only. Total income shall be chargeable to tax at normal slab rates, that you are knowing it. And the other option is giving you the taxable at the rate 60% plus surcharge and cess, and penalty under section 270. No penalty would be leviable in respect of undisclosed income under section 270A. Okay. So here the correct options would be the pending assessment would abate, है ना? And then the total income of 1.05 crore shall be taxable at the rate 60%. These are the 1 and 4th. What are the options? 1, 3rd and 4th are given as a correct statement. Then in B option it is given as 2, 3. Our answer are 1 and 4th. Okay. So 1 and 4th are the correct answers. Whether the interest levied by the assessing officer in respect of undisclosed income assessed for the block period is correct. What happened? Assessing officer has charged interest at the rate 2%, whereas as per the provision, interest can be charged at the rate 1.5% from the date of expiry of the period is specified in the notice. From the date the specified period is expired till the date of completion of assessment. However, the correct option is given in which after the expiry of 6 days and ending on the date of completion of assessment. But here is 1% is mentioned after the expiry of 60 days and ending on the date of completion of assessment. No, and right, it's not correct. 1.5%, whereas the assessing officer has levied interest at the rate 1.5%. So block assessment mein, I have told you these are the important things. These rates you should remember, the time limits you should remember. Okay, and immunity from penalty you should remember. There are condition when the immunity from penalty can be given. No order imposing penalty under this section or section this shall be made for block period in respect. इसके रिस्पेक्ट में penalty नहीं लेवी होगी if these conditions are being satisfied. If these conditions are not satisfied, so the circumstances you have to remember कि under what circumstances penalty would not be levied. Our penalty can be no immunity shall be available from where, but in these cases no immunity would be given. Penalty would also be levied from these sections also. If you look, 271 AAD is providing you the penalty with respect to false entry equivalent to the amount of false entry. 271D providing you the penalty with respect to loan or advances taken under section 269 SS. Then your 271DA is providing the penalty in respect of section 269 ST. Undertake transactions for more than 2 lakhs or more, and then 271E is in respect of repayment of loan. I hope that block assessment concept you would be able to revise some of the things. You have to remember and recall these important things. One of the questions either in the form of your descriptive may be asked from this block assessment because it's an amendment provision. Then now moving to our next question, which is on buyback of shares. This is an very easy concept, and it's an amended provisions, and this is again being introduced with mid of the year, because they have introduced this thing again from mid of the year 1/10/2024. Because what has happened in case of buyback of shares, the company which is buying the shares, buying back the shares, they have to pay the distributed tax. So still for this till 30th of September 2024, if the company, domestic companies, whether listed or unlisted, if they are acquiring or buying back the shares, then they have to pay the additional income tax at the rate 20% plus surcharge. Surcharge, if you see here, the surcharge is not dependent on your total income. It's a fixed rate of surcharge, that is 12% will be applicable, and cess at the rate 4% is leviable in the hands of the company under section 115 QA. And once the company is paying the tax, for example, in case of dividend, earlier the dividend distribution tax was paid by the companies, and that dividend is exempt in the hands of the shareholders. Similarly, if the company is paying the tax on the buyback of shares, then that amount of buyback income which is arising in the hands of shareholders would be exempted by virtue of section 1034A. So this still be relevant for you if the transaction is taking place on or before 1/10/24. Okay, don't get confused. It is possible कि all the facts you feel this is on buyback of shares, but you have to keep in mind the date. So some of the options would be there on this additional income tax, some may be based on the provisions which are effective after this date. So what will happen, what they have decided, how they have come out with this provision, it's very interesting way of taking the tax from the shareholders. What they have done in case of buyback shares, whether listed or unlisted, on or after 1/10/2024 by a domestic company, because they have buyback taking place by a domestic company, then whatever be the amount a domestic company is paying to the shareholders, whatever be the amount, I'm telling you, whatever be the amount, at what rate they are purchasing it from the shareholders, that would be deemed as dividend in the hands of the shareholders. That would be deemed as dividend in the hands of the shareholders, and shall be chargeable at the applicable rate to that particular shareholder. In this respect, no deductions or expenses would be allowable to you. Okay, so here would be deemed as dividend in the hands of the shareholders. Now, let's this example is already given in your book, and here there's been given that company has bought back in 2020 by Mr. B 40 per shares. Okay, 100 shares it is being purchased, and total cost of acquisitions were Mr. B ने परचेज किए थे 2020 में in A Limited 100 shares. उनकी cost of acquisition of the shares were 4,000, that is 40 per share. Okay, and now the company has bought back. How many shares the company has bought back? 20 shares from the shareholder. It's not given whole shareholders. 20 shares were being bought back from him. Okay. So number of shares bought back in November 2024 by A Limited is 20 shares. Now, what would be the income chargeable to tax? The company has purchased the shares at the rate 60 per share. So how much a shareholder is getting? 60 into 20, 1200 it is getting. So this 1200 amount would be chargeable to tax as dividend income. ओके, इरिस्पेक्टिव ऑफ कि शेयर्स हैं, आपने परचेज की, आपका कैपिटल गेन से राइज होगा. पहले यही होता था, कैपिटल गेन से राइज होता है. बायबैक को exempted था earlier, it was exempted, but in case if you are getting something, then you will definitely, how you are going to compute the capital gains? It can be taxable in the form of capital gains also, but here it is not taxable in the form of capital gains. The income which is whatever be the sales consideration of the shares, what will be the buyback amount of the shares, that is chargeable to tax straightforward without any reduction, without any expenses, whole amount as dividend income. Okay, and that dividend income, again 194 के provisions are also applicable, that is TDS is required to be deducted. Some integration can be there with respect to TDS provisions, also with respect to buyback of shares. And what they are doing, instead of computing the capital gains, they are doing whatever be your cost of acquisition of those shares, it would be considered as your capital loss. It can be long-term capital loss or it can be short-term capital loss. If it is a short-term capital loss, of course, it can be set off against both short-term capital gains and long-term capital gains. However, if it is long-term capital gains, then it can be set off against only long-term capital gains. Then it will be carry forward to the subsequent years. This is the point which you have to remember while a question comes for buyback of shares. आता है कोई भी question, इसी तरीके से you have to proceed and solve it. So you have to look for the other transactions. If other transactions are given and some other long-term or short-term capital gain is there, and you have to then determine the nature of short-term or long-term capital gains with respect to bought back of shares, and accordingly do the treatment of that share. So in the question, if you see and look, the last facts which are on buyback of shares, that is given that ABC Private Limited bought back 50,000 shares, including 500 shares from Mr. Jeevan for Rp1250. Okay, and Mr. Jeevan acquired the shares for 200 per share in the year 2018. So what will happen? Simple treatment, dividend income would be rise, and if the transaction is taking place on 20th March 2025, this is an important date, which is after 1/9, your 1st October, 1st October 2024. So the amount would be chargeable to tax in the hands of Mr. Jeevan. How much? It would be 1250 into 500. Okay, and then what will happen to 200 rupees? 200 cost of acquisition, it would be your LTCL. Okay, no other information is given. If information is given to you, then you are going to see and adjust it against other law gains. 1250 into 500. This is coming to 6,25,000. What is the question? Let's move to the question. So here in this question, what is happening? Long-term capital gains of 5,20,000 would be taxable in the hands. No, long-term capital gains of rupee 1 lakh and deemed dividend of rupee 6,25,000 would arise in the hands of Mr. Jeevan. This is the with respect to the buyback of provisions we have done. I think hope you all have done the RTP question. Another question is there which is on non-resident taxation, your international taxation portion. Here first question is on based on the how to determine the residential status. It is of course basic question and you have already done during your intermediate course. And but of course the whole basis of your internal taxation is on residential status of a person. This is very very important because your taxability is dependent on that only, source of income. Then we go to the source of income. If the person is resident in India, then you will look where is the source of income. That is again very important. So in this question, it's not very difficult. I think you all can solve it easily, and I don't think I need to explain it, and in case of any doubt definitely you can ask us, but try to solve it on your own. जितने भी case scenarios आ रहे हैं आपके, again solve it, or I just want to what is the difference, because यहाँ पे some tricky point is being tested here. Because आपको सारी information दी हुई, all information is given that he has resides in Dubai, he's a person of Indian origin. In order to expand his business profession, he visits India, visiting India frequently. He keeps on visiting India frequently, and he's coming for 90 days, 65 days. During the 4 years diya hai, then some time is given that he stayed in India during the previous year, relevant previous year, 135 days. And some incomes are being given, ki how much income he has earned in India and how much income is earned in outside India. This all is given to you. अब देखो कि आपने सब कंप्यूट कर लिया, आपने इसका देखा कि आप he is staying only for how many days? He is staying on for 305 days for this, ठीक है? And during the year is 135. 135 जैसे क्लिक करता है, it comes to mind कि 135 is falling within that range of 120 days. And your income also, total income other than the income from foreign sources also exceeding 15 lakh rupees. What will happen? But he is not satisfying the condition of 365 days. Of course, he is staying for 120 days, but not satisfying the condition of 365 days during the last 4 years. Even though his total income, other than from income from foreign sources, exceeds 15 lakh rupees, he would not be a resident. But there is another concept of deemed resident is there. Would it be applicable? Because once a person is not classifying or falling, considering it as a resident as per the section 6.1, then you will go and check the 6.1a. 6.1a also talks about if a person, having total income other than income from other sources exceeding 15 lakh rupees and his income is not liable to tax anywhere, then he would be considered a deemed resident. Once a deemed resident becomes, then he would by default become RNOR, right? But in this case, in the initial sentence it's being written, it's a person of Indian origin. This is the difference. In case of deemed resident, the condition is of Indian citizen is there, not of person of Indian origin. This is very important. So person of Indian origin cannot be a deemed resident. However, and if a person Indian citizen only if it's satisfying the condition laid down in section 61A, then he would be classifying as a deemed resident. So in this case, even though he is satisfying the condition which are there in under section 61A, but the crucial condition is of Indian citizen only. He's not, he would be non-resident. Otherwise, more or less, the provision, you can immediately, tick on, yeah, he would be deemed resident. So this is the critical things you have to keep in mind while attempting this type of questions. Okay, this is about non-resident. Then once he becomes a non-resident, then another question is on your, of course, it's on TDS and TCS, because if you see and look for the TCS provisions in the section 261F specifically has acquired the car. So there is no restriction or no exemption or no relaxation is given under section 261F that no TCS would be deducted. In that case also TCS would be deducted again on the value of the car. Okay. Whole value of the car if it exceeds 10 lakh rupees. Then total income is given. How to compute the total income? Total income ke based with next question is also dependent. So aapka, if you see in this question what is happening, the sixth question and your eighth question and ninth question are dependent on each other. If once you have decided that he is a deemed resident, then your total income answer would be different because he would become RNOR. If that gone wrong, then your computation of tax liability also will gone wrong. So they are very dependent on first question. Okay, so be extra careful while choosing the option of the MCQs which are interdependent on each other. Because एक क्वेश्चन आपका गलत हुआ तो आपका दूसरे क्वेश्चंस डेफिनेटली विल गो रॉन्ग. इफ दे आर इंडिपेंडेंट डेफिनेटली देयर इज एन अपॉर्चुनिटी टू यू कि अगर आपने एक क्वेश्चन गलत किया तो सेकंड में अगर आपने ठीक किया तो डेफिनेटली विल फेच द मार्क्स. बट यहाँ पे प्रोबेबिलिटी इज मोर ऑफ गोइंग रॉन्ग इन द अदर क्वेश्चंस. ठीक है. सो टोटल इनकम you can compute. The next question is on updated return. If you see, it's on updated return and it's very simple question. It's nothing great. In this case, updated return may, of course, you cannot file an updated return for claiming the refund because updated return cannot be a loss return. You cannot file it for claiming the refund. Then updated return time period, of course, you have to remember up to what time period you can file the updated return, what is the tax you have to pay while filing the updated return. These are very important. In what circumstances you cannot file the updated return, this you have to remember. The next question is on 194Q and 206C 1H, which is also based on statutory update basically. For this you have to definitely go and look for this treasury update. There some exemptions are given to the IFSC units. If the buyer is in IFSC unit, then seller need not to collect the TCS. If the because in case of goods, sale of goods or those things, the connectivity between these two provisions need to be checked, that is 194Q and 206C1H, because priority is given to 194Q only. Once 194Q is not applicable, then you will go and look for section of 206C1H. Okay, and so both cases may the IFSC unit, if the seller, in case of 194Q, if the seller is in IFSC unit, then the buyer need not to deduct the TDS. Okay, however, condition is there 194 80LA if is in the years in which he is claiming deduction under section 80LA. Similarly, in case of 206C1H, if you go and see, then in those cases, if the buyer is in IFSC unit, then seller need not to deduct the taxes. You have to look for the information who is in the IFSC unit. If both are in the IFSC, there is no need of deducting any TDS or TCS. And you have to cross check. Checking is required in case of 194Q and 206C1H. In this particular case, the seller is in IFSC unit. Okay, Global Private Limited is buying products from FinTech Solutions, which is located in IFSC unit for 63 lakhs, and turnover of both is given. Of course, the turnover limit is applicable for buyers and sellers. If it exceeds 10 crores, then only 194Q would be applicable. If 194Q is not applicable, then you will go and check the 206C1H. There also the condition is there on the seller. Seller exceeds this your 10 crores limits. Okay, so in this case, the seller is in IFSC unit and buyer is in not in any IFSC unit, but it's buying goods from IFSC unit. So 194Q would not be applicable because the buyer have to deduct the TDS in case of 194Q. Then you will go and check the 206C1H. So 206C1H also gives the exemption. Oh, excuse me. Only where the buyer is in IFS unit. Here the seller is in IFS unit. So 206C1H may the your fintech solutions need to collect the TCS. Then again, it's a very interesting question which is on your amalga your mergers taking place and consequent to your this thing high court order. Then what will happen to your assessment proceedings? What will happen to when you are required to file a modified return? So that in that cases that you have to proceed and check, do the assessments, complete the assessment in line with the order of reorganization and modified return. So modified return also need to be filed within 6 months from the end of the month in which the order was passed. So this is about the MCQ section. If you go and look for the descriptive portion, descriptive maybe you please, in case of full-fledged question, because the time is limited, go through each and every adjustments given in your RTPs. So RTP, if I speak to you for January exams, what you can do, you can solve the RTP for relevant for your May attempt, May 25, September 25 and January 26 exams. And you can go through the suggested answer also which are relevant for your May 25 exams, September 25 exams. Definitely it will help you in understanding what type of questions are being asked, understanding how to present your answers. So this is one of the questions are if you see long-term capital gains may here is given 19 September. So here it's based on new amendment. This question, this adjustment is based on new amendment if you look and see. And then your this one again borrowings if in case of this thing uh, one of the adjustment which is on MSME, this important adjustment you have to look and see this adjustment. Then your bad debts recovery, of course this is important ones, so mark it in when you are doing this kind of questions, the full-fledged questions, mark those adjustments, highlight and try to solve it on your own. Then you can of course compare it with the answers given in your solutions. So from there you will able to understand how to then present, what to write in your answers. Key pointers, key provisions need to be written in your answers. Okay. So here if this is in respect that it is being converted, did not make the payment, however restructuring the loan facility, the company converted interest into equity shares. One of the judicial ruling is there given, it is based on your judicial update. So this is important things. So you revise those adjustments. These are based on those amendments I'm telling you. And then again, charitable trust, of course, it's based on the new amendment only. 115 TD related one amendment was there, and this thing 12 section this thing. So you go through these amendments portion. This I am telling you. This is based on the one of the ruling which is given in a study material. Based on that, it is being framed. So, and then in this case, if you see, there are two things they have been merged. First, they are checking the penalty provisions under section 278, then immunity provisions. So it's being given by way of your descriptive form of questions. This is again two integration of two or three provisions are there. So you have to go and solve it. And again, this is a new question which is based on the average adjusted total income of the last 3 years of the three assessment years, assessable total income. How you are going to proceed in that case, compute the what is the deduction allowable with respect to head office expenditures. So this is with respect to that question. It will give you another angle how to proceed with solving such type of questions. देन आपको सेफ हार्बर रूल्स पे if you go and see the statutory update, the safe harbor rules are given, and you will come to know what type of questions can be asked from the safe harbor rules. That is being given in this question number 19, that you can solve it, and then you will come to know what type of questions can be asked from the safe harbor rules. Of course, you have to remember the limits, whatever the limits are given, when the assessee can opt for the safe harbor rules, when they can be applicable under the particular circumstances only. The safe harbor rules are applicable. Then it's again a DTA provisions, but of course it is covering the marginal relief. है ना, मार्जिन रिलीफ अभी आपने बहुत दिनों से नहीं किया होगा, मुझे तो फाइनल के स्टूडेंट जनरली मार्जिन रिलीफ के क्वेश्चंस नहीं करते. इंटर पे तो यू हैव डन अ लॉट, बट हियर इन दिस केस मार्जिन रिलीफ प्रोविजंस आर बीइंग टेस्टेड. सो मार्जिन रिलीफ ऐसा नहीं है कि डिस्क्रिप्टिव फॉर्म में कैन बी टेस्टेड, इट कैन बी टेस्टेड इन द फॉर्म ऑफ योर एमसीक्यूज आल्सो. So this will give you an just revise your things, because continuous revision is very much required to strengthen your provisions, to boost your confidence. Continuous revision for particular provisions are very very important for you. For that purpose, you take the help of RTPs, you take the help of the resources whatever given, take the help of सारांश. ठीक है, आपने मेरे को अभी आपने यहाँ रिवाइजिंग द थिंग्स, आप साथ साथ सारांश अपने साथ में रखो, है ना, उसमें अंडरलाइन कर सकते हो. दैट यू कैन टेक इट बिफोर गो थ्रू टू रिवाइज द रेट्स, डेट्स, threshold limits which are relevant for you, है ना, cut off dates, many things, up to what date assessment need to be computed, the period, timelines, time limits, everything. For that purpose you can take the help of the सारांश. आप खुद भी अपने नोट्स बना सकते थे, अगर नहीं बनाए तो टेक द हेल्प सारांश. It's very helping for you to do the 1 day prior to your examination, the revising your those provisions, that you can definitely take the help of saransh and highlighted portion. That is very important. Again, I am telling you, because it's a revisionary time, whatever you are practicing and revising the things, highlight the key pointers. जहाँ पे आप mistakes कर रहे हो उसको एक बार mark कर लीजिए, अच्छे से हाईलाइट कर लीजिए. तो आप जब एग्जाम से पहले, जब आपका डीटी का एग्जाम है डायरेक्ट एक्सेस का, उससे पहले आप उन चीजों को एक बार देख के जाइए, सो दैट सेम मिस्टेक यू आर नॉट गोइंग टू रिपीट, शुड नॉट रिपीट ड्यूरिंग द एग्जामिनेशन. और एग्जाम में कैसा भी पेपर आए, बी इट वेरी अननोन पेपर, नॉट फेमिलियर विद इट, आपको ग्रेजुअली you will feel कि initially तो आपको लगा this question is very unfamiliar, I don't know the provision, I could not recall, but when you start writing it, then आपको धीरे धीरे याद आने लगेगा, इफ यू हैव प्रिपेयर्ड इट वेल. आपने पहले प्रैक्टिस की हुई है सिमिलर टाइप के क्वेश्चंस की, उनसे रिलेटेड प्रोविजंस की, या आपने प्रोविजन पढ़ा भी है. अगर आपने प्रोविजन अच्छे से पढ़ा और अंडरस्टैंड किया है तो उस डिफरेंट प्रोविजन पे भी क्वेश्चन आता है, यू कैन डेफिनेटली इजिली सॉल्व इट. ठीक है, और डोंट थिंक कि इफ 100 मार्क्स में 100% जरूरी नहीं आपको 100% ही आता हो. आप अगर 95% भी आता है, आपको 80% भी आता है, तो आपने जितना भी आता है, वॉट एवर यू नो, यू अटेम्प्ट इट प्रॉपरली. अगर आप कि यू आर कॉन्फिडेंट अबाउट 80%, ठीक है, 10-20% पेपर आना भी चाहिए, कॉम्प्लिकेटेड डिफिकल्ट होना भी चाहिए, being a professional exam. But if you are confident for that 80% definitely, and you have attempted it well 80%, then आपके मार्क्स आपको स्कोर होंगे. nobody will deduct your marks आपको. but the thing is, you have to present your answers very well, in a well mannered way, in a particular way. It's not कि आप अपने माइंड में the things, you have to write it also in the answer sheet, and you have to show it also by highlighting the key provisions. आप highlight कर दो इन provisions को. This is the basis on which you are solving and proceeding to solve the answer. ठीक है, that's all about for today. In case if you feel if you have any query pertaining to the subject, you definitely ask us through the BoS mobile app, and we are here to help you, and definitely, and wish you all the best. Of course, during the examination time, it is very essential for you to take care of your health first. When you are doing your studies, take a if you have done a study for around half hour, you just plan a break of 10 minutes, or 1 hour 45 minutes you have done this study, then you can plan your break for 10 minutes. It will boost your mind this way. And do some exercises also, indulge in some motivation, your meditation things also. Take care of your health first, because motivation is very much required during your CA examination, because आप इतना पढ़ रहे हो, don't take a stress of anything. बिकॉज अब तो आपने जितना पढ़ लिया, अब तो आपको जस्ट रिवाइज करना है उन चीजों का, एंड यू हैव टू प्रेजेंट इट, यू हैव टू शो दैट यू हैव डन इट, है ना? सो देख लो, आप अपने सेक्शन वाइज स्ट्रेटेजी बनाओ अभी रिवीजन की भी, उसी बेसिस पे यू कंटिन्यू टू प्रोसीड विद. Okay, that's for all for today. So now I think we can wind up the session. Wishing you all the very best to you. Thank you so much. Yeah, yeah, over.